Everyone, welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. We're going to talk about endurance and grappling martial arts today. Endurance.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you have a gas tank?
endurance. No, I don't. I've always been a sprinter. And before we start, I just want to give a quick shout out to Augustin who gave us the
Yep.
suggestion. So he's struggling with endurance, despite working out through all his life.
Yeah.
So which is kind of in the same boat as me. Like I've never been a good endurance person. Like I suck at long distance running.
Yeah.
I'm just always huffing and puffing. I was a good sprinter.
Yeah.
I've always been a
Yeah.
good sprinter. So yeah, like how do we manage it? Because you've also talked about your endurance,
Yeah.
or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right?
So
You can increase your gas tank, like more gas can go into your gas tank, that kind of a thing. That's just come from training,
yeah,
sprinting,
right.
running, all these different things. And there are different methodologies to train. Or you can measure sort of yourself and say how you use the gas in the tank, right? So not
Mhm.
going all out, not redlining it. How do you recover in between sort of during the troughs of like the training or the grappling? So there's sort of
Yeah.
two ways to look at it. I think the worst thing you could do is say to yourself, hey, I have no endurance, I have no gas tank, and that's what you're stuck with. If you
Right.
train a certain way, you can have more endurance, you could have more fast twitch 2A fibers, you could have slow twitch fibers, like you kind of train yourself in this way. I'll give you an example. When I hurt my shoulder,
Yeah.
I've always been a sprinter, fast, explosive
Yeah.
athlete.
Yeah.
Long distance wasn't my thing for a long time. When I hurt my shoulder, I couldn't sprint because I couldn't bring my arm forward, right?
Right.
Shoulder
Right.
pack, I like really injured it pretty good in like, I don't know.
Oh, right before the Olympics,
Yeah,
right?
like 2011, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So during that time period, I was like, I got to go work out and do something. So I would do bodyweight squat and long distance running, like long distance. Because I couldn't move my arm fast forward, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm running 10Ks, no problem. I even
Mm.
did a New York City half, half marathon.
Oh my God, you did a half marathon?
I did, but
you never told me this.
Yeah. Don't Google the results. It's abysmal. It was terrible.
Well, you finished it.
I
I don't
finished it.
think if
Yeah,
I
what
could.
was it, 13.1 mile or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a funny story too. I messed up. I drank too much water, so I had to use all the bathroom breaks, and
Bathroom.
I got stuck. It was just the worst. It was really the worst. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
But,
I mean, it's
yeah.
still a feat. Yeah, it's still a feat.
So
Yeah.
during that time period, my like long distance running got a lot better. I got so much less explosive. You know what I mean?
Oh, you actually noticed that you're less explosive.
Yeah, because you take all your fast twitch 2A muscle fibers, you don't use them for 3-4 months while my shoulder is recovering. I'm just doing like low intensity or like long distance cardio. All of a sudden, you're not gonna be able to explode like they used to before.
Oh, that changes. I guess I know that muscles atrophy really quickly.
Yeah, fast.
If you don't use them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, you have sort of this like jujitsu grappling endurance where you kind of like go at a lower intensity, but you could just go for 3, 4, 5,
5 minutes. Yeah.
minute rolls like back to back, for like, I don't know, 10 rolls. You can go 45 minutes, almost 2 hours just at a slow intensity because that's the type of endurance that was trained.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could train
So you're saying, yeah, you could definitely train it. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of doing it. I just hate running because it's like a vicious cycle, right? I've never been good at it, so I hate it, and then it's just like I'm not motivated
soccer
to do
though,
it.
so like I don't understand why.
No, soccer. I mean, you need some endurance, but soccer is more sprinting.
Yeah.
It's about, if you look at Messi, the greatest player.
Yeah.
I'm a Cristiano Ronaldo fan, but from the last World Cup, I had to admit that Messi is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Winning that thing. Anyway, Messi walks around most of his matches. But he sprints when he needs to. He's so good at positioning and all.
Yeah.
So he's mid-30s, but he's still killing it.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's like a thing, right?
Yeah. So he's walking most of the time. He's sprinting, right?
Yeah.
And it's same thing in judo. If you sprinting the whole time,
yeah,
right?
no one can do that.
No one can do that. And if you look at some of these best guys, a lot of the times they're like hanging out in between the whistle or like walking out about to stop. They're walking back. They're taking their time. They're catching their breath. Maybe they're fixing their belt. You know what I mean? When you're sitting in top position on the person, you're kind of like hanging on them, draping your body over them. So you're resting kind of. You're not always fully engaged. It's the majority of the people who kind of tell me like, oh, my endurance sucks. I need to work on my endurance. Those guys are just inefficient in their movement, most of the time, right?
So you brought up interesting points. So we talked about sports that require more low-level, consistent effort, constant effort versus this burst of action.
Yeah.
So BJJ, I would say it falls to the former.
Yeah.
On the former, and then judo is more on the like judo soccer.
Yeah.
I think it's more on the latter.
Let's not compare
And-
judo to soccer, though. Yeah.
yeah. The soccer
No,
is
I'm kidding, I'm
judo is more
kidding.
popular, right? But like I think, well, so I've always been good at like those sprinting oriented sports
Yeah.
anyway. But so that's why I think there's some. Would you say? And you talked about efficiency in movement, and I totally get
Yeah.
that. But do you think, based on the nature of the sport, you think that what efficiency in movement means differs?
Yeah, definitely. Like,
Like,
if
yeah.
you're, for instance, like positionally too, right? So yes, the way you
Yeah.
move, the way you like, exert, all these things matter. Like if you're boxing or something, you're not clenching your fists, throwing haymakers for a minute
Right.
straight. You're moving around, you're sticking the hand out, you're like not throwing 100% punches, but you're like kind of bringing it out. And a couple of those punches are hard, but not all of them are hard. And similarly with judo, it's the case like that. But if the person has you in Georgian position and they're hanging on you and you have to physically carry their body weight, like it's very difficult to like kind of not use, right? It's not really efficiency because you physically have to deadlift them upwards.
Right.
So you're forced to be in that position, as opposed to the other side. If you have them in good position, you're hanging on them, right? So it's, yes, efficiency in movement, but it's just the position that you're forced to be in, or the position that you're in. Some are much more energy expensive than others. You know what I mean?
And BJJ too, right? I guess
Yeah.
if you're in someone's side control and
Yeah.
you're trying to escape,
Yeah.
that's just a lot because you have to push off the whole body
You
weight.
need to exert a lot more from bottom to get that person up than the top
Yeah.
person needs to exert in order to keep them down there.
So that's an interesting point. So it's endurance is not about just going and running marathons. It's really, you need to work on your movement as well as your positioning, like your game.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
I think that's why you see like, oh my God, this pros or like Kel Sanders could go like an hour of just wrestling everyone without breaking a sweat because he's so efficient. He's like, he knows when to like go and then take a break. Or when black belts could, play 10 white belts or whatever.
Yeah. Think about it, man.
Without breaking a
Let's
sweat.
say if you're wrestling and you're wrestling me, I have 40 pounds on you, and you shoot on me and I'm sprawling on you and dropping all my weight, and you get stuck underneath maybe once or twice. You almost take me down, but I'm just kind of dropping my weight on you when I outweigh you by 40 pounds, right? You take 3-4 of those shots, you're gonna kind of getting tired.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll do that for 2 minutes straight, and then all of a sudden, I'll snap you down in front headlock, and now it's very difficult. You're stuck underneath for, the fourth time. Now you're kind of tired, and then when I start snapping and circling, you're a lot more likely to give that position up, and then you're going to be much more tired than me.
Yeah, and I can catch up with you when you try to get around.
Yeah, and that's just like a body weight difference, you shooting, and also on the contrary, like same ordeal, like I could take those 4 shots and kind of get, in on a leg, but you're sprawling. But because I weigh much more than you, much lighter, I might not have the same exertion, and then all of a sudden when you're a little bit heavier and older, and you know what, my back's kind of hurting, I don't want to shoot underneath. So now all of a sudden I don't shoot, right? So if I'm not shooting at all, and I'm just kind of going for snatch singles, underhooks, going upper body and attacking the feet, snapping your head down, and you get stuck underneath me twice with a shot, the energy expenditure is completely different. And then so I might be not even breaking a sweat, but you might be exhausted. And then people will be like, oh, Shintaro's in such good shape. Am I really though? There's a lot of factors to take into consideration there,
Yeah. It's so interesting because, I think I realize it more and more as I get better at judo wrestling. And as I get older, I can kind of like hang on. Like if you move your hips well, you can kind of like hip check or whatever. You can kind of, compensate for it. Yeah.
And then, judo is a lot more stop and go. It's kind of like the difference between soccer, where it's just continuously going, and the extreme side of that is, like, for instance, hockey. Because you go out on the ice and you sprint around, and now you can kind of come back.
They like constantly change, like 2 to 3 minutes or something.
Yeah,
and
you're only playing 2 to 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
So that's much more high intensity interval training. And then you have soccer, and then you have all the way on the other side of the spectrum, like a marathon running kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Marathon runners still run really fast though.
So
the
they do,
pace.
they do.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the general 99% of
Yeah.
people that are doing this who
Yeah.
are running, you
Yeah.
know, a certain pace, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about like how to compensate for endurance in terms of skill
Yeah.
set, like the positioning, efficient
Yeah.
movement, and like
Yeah.
strategy. Like grip fighting probably comes in too. Like if
Cheers.
you're
Yeah.
constantly getting out gripped,
Yeah.
you have to like
Yeah.
rip it out,
Yeah.
and then it's just, you know, that's tiring.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
tiring. Yeah. And so you need to work on that. That's like a, you know, everyone should be working on that all the time anyway.
Yes.
So let's kind of move on to this actual conditioning side, like how to train for it. Like, you've done a lot of strength and endurance
Yeah.
conditioning, strength and conditioning training at the elite
Yeah.
level. So, you know, what is the good way to train for endurance in BJJ or judo? Like,
Yeah.
do you do interval training? Is it better to just go for a long run?
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So there's many different like theories about this stuff, and you kind of have to really know yourself. And for instance, for me,
Yeah.
like we're talking about like, all right, if you go to a tournament, you have 5 matches to get to the finals. First 2 matches are just goes the distance, 5 minutes,
Yeah.
overtime, whatever it is. And you're completely burning yourself out. So now you have 16
Yeah.
minutes under your belt, and now you have to go into a third and fourth match. And you know, you have a lot of time in between these matches as well, right? So it's like being able to
Yeah.
recover from things like that. Like that sort of training is a lot of it is like barbell complex training or like circuit training type behavior because, you know, maybe like you go to the third match and your forearms are loaded from like, you know, moving,
Yeah.
you know, doing the judo or like, you know, cranking
Yeah.
out dumbbell presses or whatever the hell you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing a circuit, maybe you're climbing rope, whatever
Right.
it is. So
Yeah.
simulating that kind of training is kind of a nice thing. That can't be the core of your training because, like I said, you have to look at from a contextual standpoint of like where your strengths and weaknesses are. Right now, I'm in the gym doing mostly shoulder rehab exercises to gain mobility and strength in the end ranges, right? So it doesn't look like, you know, that kind of training at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
then if your biggest weakness is just you have weak upper body strength, sometimes it's better off just doing bench press and rows and things like this to get stronger, period. You know? Maybe
Right.
in between weight classes, you need to put on 5 pounds or you're,
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
got to cut. So you're doing a little bit more cardio. It really depends. But I think the best thing you can do is sprints.
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 Yeah.
Especially
Just
for
wind
judo.
sprints.
For
Yeah.
judo. What we're talking
Yeah.
about.
For judo.
Judo,
Yeah.
wrestling, like high
Yeah.
intensity grappling styles, right?
Yeah.
Even maybe you do jujitsu too, and then, you know, you play that kind of a style, then yes, that's important. But you have to take into account, like, you know, putting tax on your knees, right? Your tax on your
Yeah.
knees,
Yeah.
ankles, things like that. If you have a very slow isometric game where you're just holding spider lasso and you're pulling them in,
Yeah.
a slow half guard game, there really is no benefit in you doing these heavy sprints
Yeah.
because that's just not how you know, train, how you
Right.
grapple
Right.
anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all
Right.
these different things kind of matter, you know?
So I think that's a good point you made. It's not about like, oh, I get winded all the time at judo or
Yeah.
BJJ,
Yeah.
and you like, you know, I'm gonna go for 5 mile runs every day. That's not. You have to. That's not the best way forward. You probably have to sit down and assess like what where your deficiencies are, like
Yes.
you said. So you have to get your base fitness level up, and then that's like a given,
Yeah.
and then you can try to branch out to like try to tailor your training to your style.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I listen to my body,
But-
you know, like right now,
Yeah.
what I did when I was younger, completely different now. You know, I'll do sprints, but I'll have it on an incline, you know, not because it's harder, but it's just a little bit easier on the knee, you know? And
okay.
me going to the track and doing sprints, much more taxing on the body as opposed to doing it on the
Yeah.
treadmill. You know what I mean?
Uh,
So like, if I feel pretty good, you know, if I have some energy conserved or whatever, I know Monday and Tuesday it's not going to be as intense. You know, it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
I've recovered on Saturday. Then I'll go to the track and blow it out. You know what I mean? That's what I did maybe
Yeah.
2 weekends ago, right? I was at the pool
Yeah.
with Yumi all day on Saturday. I had like a chill Saturday. And then Sunday morning, I got up really early, went to the gym. You know, that was the time that's like no one's in there.
yeah.
After that, went to the track and then did 6, you know, top speed 100-meter sprints.
Me too.
And dude, I was wiped for like 2 days straight. I was like literally like,
man.
I almost was like, what the hell's going on with me? But you need those because, and you can't just go to the track and do that because you'll blow your hamstring out if you're a certain age.
Yeah.
You know, so there is some sort of a maintenance thing that I do. For instance, like today's Friday, tomorrow's Saturday. I didn't sprint yet this week.
Yeah.
So tomorrow,
you need to recover. Yeah.
I mean, because like I had like a different kind of a schedule, but I haven't sprinted at all this week. Last Saturday and Sunday I did. So tomorrow I have to go to the gym in the morning. I'm going to do sprints on the treadmill, right, at an incline.
Mm,
And, it might be slightly longer, right, as
yeah,
opposed to like cranking it out to the maximum 14, 15 or whatever it
yeah,
is at an angle, like blowing it out for 45 seconds. I might just kind of go maybe like 11 or 12, like a minute and a half or
yeah,
something. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh man, that would be like a 400-meter
That's
dash.
brutal. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the worst rate. I used to be on the track team, and that was 400 and 800. That's the worst
Really tough.
type of race.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're doing judo, you're never really sprinting for that long anyway.
And
Because
that,
every
yeah,
exchange, what is the maximum of that? Like 30 seconds on average, 25
yeah,
seconds. So you're never really
yeah,
like going all out for more than 30 seconds at a time, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And then even
yeah.
if you blow it out one exchange, you come back. It's like, all right, go for a bad tomonagi. They land in close guard. You hug them for a little bit. You catch your breath.
Take a
Yeah,
break.
maybe
Yeah,
next exchange they look for a drop senagi, so you anticipate that, you sprawl to the side and you just kind of hang and you're like put your weight on them
yeah,
and you just hold them there. Now you got a nice 40-second break.
yeah,
So like when you're on the treadmill, when you're doing these sprints, people are like, how many seconds do you go? How many seconds do you recover for? A lot of it is feel.
yeah,
Just to know
yeah,
how long it recovers from my heart rate to go from 170 something back down to like 120, and then, right? So I could kind of gauge
yeah.
myself for how long it'll take in competition or in training, you know?
So you can kind of like tailor your game around that, like the recovery
Yes.
time.
And I'm not trying to like, be a second faster on the thing or do, 10
Yeah,
seconds long. I'm not really trying to do progressive overload with the sprints.
yeah,
Mostly majority for me now at 40 is maintaining that, right? I've always
yeah,
been
yeah.
explosive. I'm still really explosive. Any grappling gym you put me in it, I will out sprint most guys. 99% of
Oh
the time.
yeah.
I'm a great sprinter.
Well, most people don't.
I don't sprint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I think the last I try to sprint like
Yeah.
here and there, but I don't sprint like you
Put
do
me
right
in
now.
any
Yeah,
jujitsu gym in the country and I'll be the top 10
yeah.
fastest guy in sprinting in that room. I guarantee it.
What's your 100 time
I have
now?
no idea. I'm
Have
just
you
talking
been?
shit right now. Yeah.
Eugene's a top sprinter.
Eugene's a
He
great,
still
yeah.
competes.
He competes in the
Yeah,
Masters, Nationals, stuff like
yeah,
that. His mom's a
yeah.
sprinter. You know what I mean? And
She's like a world champion, by the way,
yeah,
guys. Like Eugene's mom, this tiny lady is still, she probably can out sprint you.
yeah, she was top 10 in the world in her age category
Yeah,
in sprinting.
yeah,
So it's in
yeah,
the family. And yes, I'm talking out of my ass here, but Eugene has a certain level of sprinting. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like track and field level sprinting. I'm not talking
yeah,
like
yeah,
internationally, like Usain Bolt. I'm not talking about that. But like
yeah,
master level, nationals, like he's not in last place when he goes
yeah,
to these things, And I
yeah.
sprinted
That's
alongside of
very
him,
nice.
and
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
you can
I'm
keep
pretty
up.
fast,
Yeah,
pretty fast.
yeah. Well, that's impressive. So I had a question. I'm trying to pick your brain. So you know how we've talked a lot about
Yeah,
running, like uh for your endurance, right?
mm,
Like sprinting and just like going for a long jog. But a lot of times I just hate running, and then it, to go sprint, it's like I don't really have space,
yeah,
like it's like annoying. So what I try to do is when I go to the
yeah,
gym, I don't really lift heavy anymore. I just do a lot of body weight exercises, just a lot of
yeah,
reps, and then I get
yeah,
winded. And then I tell myself that that should help with my endurance.
yeah. It does.
You think
Yeah, better than
you think
nothing.
it does?
Better than nothing.
I mean, I know that it's better than nothing,
Yeah,
but it's like if I do all this I guess like what CrossFit is kind of like this, I
yeah,
guess, like all
yeah,
this like repetitive repetitions. And what do you think about that?
yeah.
That
No,
kind of
100% can
workout?
help. You do that, and then you have judo a couple times a week, and even in judo, like you
Yeah.
could train, in that session for the purpose of getting in better win. Like,
Right.
yeah, for
Yeah.
instance, I'll tell you, you go with somebody very difficult or something, and he like gasses
Yeah.
you out, and you go with someone lighter and smaller, and you just kind of move and use that whole
Uh,
time to like
recover.
recover, but then a lot of flurries, a lot of movements, a lot of scrambles
Yeah.
to like get your heart rate up and then rest by just gripping and keeping them away. Get your heart, go for
Hmm.
another scramble, rest and keep the gripping away. That way you're more in control of your training, your gas tank, as opposed to like, all right, if I go 3 black belts back
Oh,
to
it's like
back, And then
It's like fight or flight. Yeah.
yeah, then the third guy like passes my guard. He's like holding me down, like I'm just squirming underneath him. Can't catch my breath. He goes knee on belly, and I have to tap to that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
really helpful because first of all, I'm tired. Second of all,
Yeah.
I'm not really working on recovering my gas. I'm just and you're
Yeah.
being forced to redline, right? And then sometimes you
Right.
need
Right.
that a little bit because you might get put in that position. But you
Yeah.
can kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down, and then train this way in the
Mm.
room. And I think that's one of the best ways that's overlooked. People think, oh man, I'm getting gas in the room. I got to go out to the track and do sprints or do this kind of
Yeah.
training. No, you got to do judo for the sake of improving your endurance for that sport by doing that sport. So you almost have to have these like micro endurance goals within your judo training period. Same with jiu-jitsu also,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good point because yeah, like why do people say, "Oh, I have terrible endurance doing judo,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna do judo. I'm gonna do something else But you can, not everyone has the time to
Right.
like do extra stuff. So yeah, you can definitely maximize your training, optimize for endurance.
It's
Yeah.
funny because I just had this
Funny.
conversation this morning with a older, heavier purple belt today.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What was his
He
question?
was well, he didn't ask me a question. He was gassed.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, I was
okay.
like, let's go. And then he goes, I'm shot. I'm too tired. I can't,
Yeah.
And then later on, he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to work on my gas tank and I got to go do sprints or something. You suggest sprints. So like, listen, man, you should have got with me, told me, and we would have just moved around so you could have had active recovery. And then once
Right, and
your
then
heart rate was
kinda, yeah.
elevated, like you communicate this stuff to me because I'm not an asshole in the room. I'm the nicest guy in the room to train with, right? Because there's so much
Yeah.
experience. All right, so we would have kept intensity low. You would have recovered 2 minutes, and that would have increased it, and heart rate would have gone up, and then we would have reduced it, right? To where you're not redlining, you're recovering, but you're still getting the 6-minute roll out of me, and then the minute, break in between after me. Like by then, you could go back and go out there and go hard again, and that's 10 times more beneficial than just sitting out waiting to go to the track later on and do sprints. I bet you he didn't go to the track today.
I mean, that's the thing.
I bet you he's not doing it. He's got kids, family. I bet you $1 million that he's not at the track right now running.
Right.
And it's just a missed opportunity. So you have to be able to communicate this stuff and then have good training partners to kind of like communicate this stuff with and have. And that kind of makes all the difference, really,
Yeah. I mean, that's an efficient use of time. Like what was his response to that? I'm just curious. Did he take it well?
No, I mean, I didn't really go into it too much. And then he's
Oh,
like, yeah,
okay.
okay, next time, whatever. And then we started talking about watches and, stuff like that. Just bullshitting.
That's a more
really,
fun topipic. Yeah.
But, it's like, that's the best way to build endurance. You're there anyway. You have 6 rolls.
Yeah.
You don't have to go hard for all of them as opposed to going hard 2 in a row, sitting out 2, whatever it is. Just do all of them, but vary the intensity on all of them. And then if you say, let's go light, you have to mean it. And then you have to kind of be able to communicate, know the people in the room who can kind of adjust with you, and it happened to me last week when I was like, when I was achy, tired, my back was hurting. I wasn't warm yet. I told the guy, yo, let's go light because I'm not warm yet. And they fucking went berserk.
Oh, how did you deal with that?
Not good, man. I took my back.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
Now they're on my list. I'm like, forget that guy. I'm never going with that guy when I'm not warm or not ready. Because now I know how they operate. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there, complain and bitch about it and then talk to them like, hey, man, pull you aside like that. Really made me uncomfortable. I'm not going to do that, but they're on a list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like you'll like, it's like, oh, you're going to try not to, right? Like you'll think twice.
Yeah. You know how like in business there's like market segmentation?
Yeah.
In this segment now of that variety of grapplers.
And then that's on the flip side, from his perspective, he lost a role. Like he now, whenever maybe he wants to go 6 rounds in a row, but he may have trouble finding a partner.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm not warm, it's the second roll, and that person has their hands up in the air. He's gonna look at me, want to go. I'm like, nope. Or I'll just go right off the rip, pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because I know that person can't flow or roll or light, or there's no other objective but to beat me, right?
Yeah.
And that's not very. I can't work on anything then. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you need to have we discuss a lot, man. I think this is good because it's like,
yeah, dude, you got to be.
Yeah, this is like you have to have a wide, like you have to be able to go with anyone really.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
complete beginner to an expert or like an athletic
Yep.
beginner. Everyone. You need to. I mean, that just it's not just about you being nice. It's about you can view it as like, oh, this is how I optimize
Yeah. Yep.
my training too. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like a point too, but like double benefits. Like
Yeah.
you're nice to everyone, so everyone wants to be friends with you,
Yeah.
and also that means you can train more.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I went with a
No.
white belt today after I went with
Yeah.
a black belt today.
Yeah.
And I'd never worked out with this guy before. So I was a little bit like,
Yeah.
ah, man, I don't know if this
Yeah.
guy's going to be
It's like
spazzy or not. And
Yeah.
then, I let him pass me. And then he was like, not like freaking out. And then I was working on different escapes from bottom, so he would pass, I would escape, pass, I would escape, pass, I would
Yeah.
escape. And it was just like that kind of on repeat. And then it was great for both of us, really,
Mhm. Yeah. He could
And
work on his
yeah.
like guard passing
And
and
same
like
with judo.
fundamentals.
Same
Yeah.
with judo.
Yeah.
The problem is if I'm who I am in the dojo, if I'm a sensei, everyone wants to kill you every single round.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to be the sensei in the room either. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
if you're not in
Yeah.
that authority position where you have a target on your back, it's very easy to say to your friend, like, hey, let's just go to the back and drill.
Yeah.
Let's just work on these things. I want to figure out this issue here. And doing that is probably good for your gas as opposed to just sitting on the side and doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So let's recap. I think we covered a lot of topics. I think we started with, differences in sports. Like, is it a sprinting sport or more
Yeah.
just sustained intensity sports? I think we kind of said BJJ would be more on the sustained intensity.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on your style, though. Like,
It does.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we move on to
Yeah.
your personal style. Some judo players are like that, right? Like, just kind of like they grind you down. Not about explosiveness, and then at the end they'll catch you
Yep.
like in
Yep.
the fourth minute, third minute, Then also you definitely can train outside of your grappling sessions to win sprints. But I think the point is that you have to. It's not just about like, oh, I'm gonna go out to sprint. So you have to listen to your body, and then you have to address your baseline deficiencies.
Yes.
If you're weak in general, if you're not fit or you've never worked out, you're not gonna your endurance is not gonna be like completely better by just doing sprints. You need to lift and then like get your basic fitness
And
up.
if your body weight and body fat is the cause of that, go for a low intensity run. Just try to lose weight first.
Yeah.
If you're too fat, you can't really sprint. You hurt your knees.
Right. Yeah. And then also we talked about like the skill side, like your game, with being more efficient in your movement, your strategy, that helps, gripping and all that. And finally, I think, what do we do? What did we just talk about? What was the last one? I'm forgetting.
I don't know.
Being more structured in your training.
Yes, endurance.
Yeah.
Poor grappling by doing grappling.
Well, grappling, yeah.
No.
I think that I feel like that is one of the best advice. Like, work on your technique. Like, a lot of us are hobbyists. It's like a blessing to be on the mat anyway.
Blessing.
Like 1 hour, 2 hours. I know we all have busy lives. This is not we're not getting paid to do this. So maximize that time. Don't sit out don't sit out the rolls because you're too tired. Try to find another person that you could do a flow roll with, or just like a light randori. And you can manage your heart rate that way. Just keep it up, elevate it. Yeah.
And it's tough,
That means you have to be able to do all kinds of training, right? Like light, flow roll, or intensity when you want to pick it up.
And sometimes you can't control that room because it's a top-down thing and the intensity of the instructor kind of bleeds over. But you could be the change in that gym and saying, hey, I'm nursing a shoulder thing. I want to just kind of work on these positions. And you talking to the person and the guy starts going berserk. It's like, hey, saying in a way where it's like, hey, can you just, I really want to just like, hey, let's reduce the intensity a little bit, whatever. The way you say it kind of really changes the game.
Wow. You got to work on your social skills too.
You really do, man. You really do.
Yeah, it's like my high school wrestling coach always said like wrestling is not a individual sport; it's a team sport. I think I didn't really get that until
Yeah.
like later in my life because you need you can't train
Yeah.
any of grappling arts by yourself. That's
Yes.
why it
Very true.
becomes a team sport.
Yeah.
You have to, yeah, you can't be an Olympian by
No,
yourself, basically.
that's for
Yeah.
sure, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. So be a good teammate,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, and follow all the things that we just said, and yeah, it'd be good.
Yep.
I gotta do a lot of these things.
Yeah. I think everyone does. Me too
Yeah.
sometimes, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Anything else? Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
we have to thank our
So
sponsors.
sponsors. Gosh. It was like,
Jason, Levon, Joe, thank you very much for sponsoring the Shintaro Higashi show with Peter Yu. Judo TV,
Yeah.
use discount code Shintaro Higashi brand. Thank you. CLN Skincare. Also, thank
Clean
you very
Skincare.
much for
Yeah, discount code
Yep.
buy one get one free Shintaro 2024
Yep.
on their website.
Do it up.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. All right,
Yep.
that's it. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.